I think they use it too often to get away from making hard decisions.
But you're missing my question, which is, if they can do it twice as often as the people do it, why do we have to again fight another Ref-O battle because they don't want the rabble messing around in what they know is best? Wait a second, they're the ones messing around with the Constitution twice as often, but I don't see anybody. I don't see the Denver Post. I don't see the Denver Post saying, "Wait a second, if this is an issue, before you guys clean house with what the citizens are doing, how about you clean your own house because you asked to change the Constitution twice as often."
Two wrongs don't make a right. I don't think that they ought to. I think their bar ought to be higher as well, personally.
Bring it over here.
Well, I'm not convinced there's a problem. I think when we put issues before the voters, they'll accept them or reject them, and setting, onerous barriers to keep voters from doing that, I don't think that's right.
You and I are on opposite sides of just about everything except this issue. I mean,
yes,
you're common cause. I mean, you're a bunch of commie pinko bastards who want to destroy the country. That said, you're right on this issue. So
victory.
Victory. This is not the first time the legislature has tried to stop people from having this right. There was something you mentioned earlier that I didn't remember as well.
Right. Well, what they're proposing right now is basically a combination of the 2008 measure, which was Referendum O, which was the signature gathering requirements, and then Referendum A, which was on the ballot in 1996, which was the supermajority vote to pass constitutional amendments. The voters rejected it in 1996 with 59% of the vote. So since the legislature didn't like the answer they got that time, they didn't like the answer they got in 2008. They've repackaged it and said we're going to make it more simple and are hoping that the third time's a charm.
Is this the right year to have this fight? I mean, I know the legislature hates it when we, the little people, get all uppity and try to change the law because that's what they do. It seems to me that this year, after what I think is going to be a backlash year to government largesse and a major distrust of government, as a guy who supports the petition process, I'm thrilled that they're going this year. Go ahead, because we're not big fans of government this year. This is not 2 years ago. This is 2010, and I'm wondering if they're picking the right time for this.
Politically, I think you're right. I think they might face some rocky road ahead in trying to get this approved by voters who are feeling, as a Pew study, a Pew poll showed earlier this week, just historic high levels of distrust of government. So I'm not sure this is exactly the right time. Furthermore, with 3 weeks left in the legislature, I'm a big fan of ensuring that everyone gets their say on something that's fully publicly vetted, and I'm not sure that this measure will have enough time to really go through the process that that I think it needs to.
Explain that. What do you mean, the process?
Well, the hearings, people having a chance to have their say, drafts being passed around. The bill is, I understand it has not been formally introduced yet at this point. Is that right? Yeah, it wasn't last time I checked. People need to have a chance to kind of tear it apart, think of the implications, voice their suggestions, and vet it, basically. And I don't know that there's going to be enough time for that before the end of the legislature.
You haven't even read this bill yet.
I have not.
So Common Cause, this is a rather liberal group, you haven't even had time to look at the bill.
No, I mean, we've heard summaries, we've heard rumors, but...
And who's pushing the bill?
There's legislators, Senator Tapia, who was the sponsor in 2008 of Referendum O. He's working on this bill again. And then there's Representative Court, who's also been very active on the initiative process. And they're working with a group called Colorado's Future, which is a group of civic leaders who've decided that this is an issue and have been doing community meetings around the state to build buy-in and public support.
And by the way, we tried to get them to talk about this. They wouldn't return our calls on this one. So thank you for coming out and chatting about it. Does it scare you that you've got evil men like me and wonderful people like Common Cause on the same side of an issue? Does that take any?
Absolutely terrifies me.
Yeah, this doesn't happen that
Elena,
often.
watch out, world, run.
Yeah, trust me, it's worse for you than it is for me. But I mean, when you see two opposites on the poll, say, wait a second, this is as part of our operating system, and that is part of our operating system. You talked about we shouldn't change our operating system willy-nilly. This type of change would be changed pretty willy-nilly.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about willy-nilly.
3 weeks left in a simple vote.
Yeah, 3 weeks left, yes. I agree with that. As I've said before, I think that it needs a chance, that this bill really has to be vetted and publicly discussed before it's kicked to voters. I fully believe that. And it's interesting that Yeah, that that there's not a bill yet to be discussed. You know, it hasn't been filed yet. So.
Yeah, politics makes the weirdest bedfellows, and this one, you know, let's talk a little bit about some of the abuses, though. There have been times where the initiative process have been led by rich guys, and this has been tough for me. I know Jared Polis was very instrumental with Amendment 23 and also with the Ethics in Government, which was 42, and he's got the money to lay down a few $1 million and buy signatures. When I've done this, I've had to scrape and plead, and it's been tough. So what about this idea that, you know, listen, politics shouldn't be a tool for rich guys who just want to change the Constitution?
Well, I mean, I agree that we shouldn't let money dominate our political system. And if you're coming around on campaign finance and there's room for us to talk, I mean, I would love to have that conversation. But I think that you highlight what's an important issue, which is that a lot of these signature requirements don't block the process. They just make it more expensive. So you can say you need to get signatures in every part of the state, or you need to get twice as many signatures. That's not going to stop someone who can afford to buy all of their signatures from putting something on the ballot. But it does stop grassroots groups from being able to advance reform. And whether you're in a grassroots group that I agree with or one that you agree with, it doesn't really matter. It really blocks the process for all Coloradans.
Let me ask you this, Jon. In 2000, let's see, it was 2008, there were 18 statewide questions until a couple of weeks, and Labor agreed, and then 4 of them fell off. But you know, we started seeing this trend of an increasing number of ballot questions. How much is too much? Do you ever have too many proposed constitutional amendments? I
think you asked the wrong question, because out of those 18, how many were passed? And only 2 were passed. One, Amendment 54, was found unconstitutional, and so really 1 stands. So out of, you know, I know you always hear that early on in the process there's going to be all these different ones, and then it whittles down to a few, and at the end of the day, 1 passed. When you take a look at the 100 years that we've had this, we've had, what, 44 changes, 45 changes. Once every other year plus, we actually pass something. And it tells me that the voters actually read these things and vote against the ones they're uncertain of, including the one that I put on the ballot, Amendment 49, where they made a big mistake in not passing it. All right, less than a minute to go. People want more information about Common Cause. Where do they go?
ColoradoCommonCause.org.
And to get the wrong side of information, they want to go to the Denver Post to see all the great stuff that you've been working on.
DenverPost.com.
You still like it there?
Love it.
Still making a paycheck?
I am.
You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't have to deliver the papers yourself.
Donate my money. No. Donate my time. No.
Everybody's still happy.
It's
there?
all good. It's actually very good.
All right. You don't have to go over and shine Dean Singleton's shoes every morning, anything like that.
No, it's all good.
It's all good. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, thank you. Please take a look at the Independence Institute website. That's independenceinstitute.org. Listen for me late nights on 850 KOA. We'll see you next week. Tell a friend. You jibber jab, bamboozle, nook and noozle, bippity bop, she call. I mean, you keep on talking, but you don't know where to turn it off.